This is The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Roadmap, exclusively here on ASBN.com. I'm Lee Heisman, and every week we bring you some of the brightest entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business owners who are climbing the ladder, scaling their businesses, and thinking about one day how to exit stage left. Today, I have a very special guest, Joana Martins. Joana, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
You're the president of Global Recruiters of Smyrna. And I want to ask questions about that business and kind of the name of it, but talk about it at first for us. Tell us what you do.
We are Global Recruiters of Smyrna is a boutique executive recruiting firm, and we focus on manufacturing, especially consumer goods manufacturing, as well as multi-unit restaurant groups.
So when you say you focus on that, do you mean that for these types of organizations, you're staffing for them? And what kind of people are you staffing?
Exactly. We are, we have a wide range. We have our teams that focus on director level positions, and I personally focus more on the CEOs, the CFOs, CMOs, and chief revenue officers.
So, it's funny, as you go with director and up with how you staff for them, is it part-time or permanent?
Permanent. We only do permanent placement.
So you're really creating a family for your clients. You're actually building with their family of their business.
Exactly, because it's interesting that after a while you realize that what the check marks of the background, and does this person have the right background or the right tools, that's about 40% of what's necessary for someone to be successful in a role. 60% is the fit. Does that person's work style and personality fit the organization? Will they thrive in there?
So, that's why you're sitting here with me, because I knew a little bit what you did, but your personality fit with me when we first met. And that's why we're sitting here. There's so much value to that. The technical piece, Joana, is not nearly as important as the personal piece.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that, if you don't mind. Talk about how you created you as a person, because the moment I met you, I immediately was drawn to you. Talk about your history. You were in the consumer goods space for 20 years before you did this.
Yes, I was. I started out at Nestle. Always in the brand and strategy side. At Nestle, Black & Decker on the appliances side. I did work for Burger King brands. I'm we used to call me the breakfast queen because I created the breakfast value menu for them. Worked at Darden brands as well, when Red Lobster was still part of them. And then the last 7 years of my corporate journey were in private equity, the private equity space. So I did startups as well as distressed businesses.
So what were you doing in the private equity space?
Strategy, marketing and strategy. So in the distressed businesses, it was mostly coming into it and deciding and analyzing the business and seeing what changes were necessary, what to focus on, what to grow, what to not grow. So
a lot of people are always looking at what to grow, but half the battle is looking to say, what do we get rid of? Where
do we cut our losses?
Yeah.
That's really important, because sometimes we insist on things for the wrong reasons, and it's not the strength. I am a believer that you should always look into the strength of a business or a person, or look at the strengths, focus on the strengths and develop those versus trying to develop what's the gap.
Those are life lessons, not just for a business, but for your personal life as well. You want to grow not by addition, but also by subtraction, getting rid of the things that cause issues in your life. And I will tell you, that's kind of one of the best parts of your story. Talk a little bit about, I think you were, as you mentioned, you were in the fitness space, but by getting rid of that career, it took you to this successful career. So how did you subtract that out of your life?
So I started my recruiting business. And about a year and a half into it, I decided to add on to a fitness franchise.
So you're doing recruiting and you're going to do fitness and you're juggling these balls.
It was supposed to be something for my then husband, and it didn't work out quite that way. 2 weeks into it, he decided he wasn't into that business.
That's really tough to do after you invest that money and make that commitment.
Hence then husband.
Okay, fair. So subtraction of the business, subtraction of the personal life coincides. So what happened? You received a call, you told me, that kind of changed your life.
After I closed, it was about a year trying to save both businesses. I ended up focusing a lot of time on the gap versus the strength against what I just mentioned. I was trying to save the fitness business. So what happened was I ended up closing that business, and I was sitting in my office one day and saying, oh my goodness, I was concentrating so much time on this business, and I wasn't paying attention to the recruiting business. Now what's going to happen? And that day I got a call that reignited my recruiting business. Someone from actually private equity called me and asked, "Hey, Joanna, are you still doing recruiting?" I'm like, "I sure am."
No way. So there was one phone call
One phone
that
call
salvaged
changed
this
everything.
business. It provided enough revenue for you to scale.
Exactly. And to focus on it again. It was almost like it was, okay, now it's time to focus on this. And this is what I'm meant to do.
So, a lesson for viewers out there, listeners that are growing businesses, trying to start businesses, we call them, you have an entrepreneur and then you have a wantrepreneur, someone that wants to open a business. If they're diversifying themselves too much, such as you experienced, I'm going to open a gym, I'm going to maintain this business. If they're not singularly focused on one business, can it be successful?
It's very hard when you're trying to look at all the shiny objects out there. And I'm not saying to put every single egg in one basket, but at least have ancillary businesses, different revenue streams that are somehow interrelated to your existing business. It is a struggle for me. I love start out businesses. I love to grow businesses because of my private equity time. And I'm always drawn, like, should I do this little shiny object or that? And I have to tell myself, Joanna, calm down. Do what you love the most, which is recruiting, because you get to be part of a lot of different companies and you get to be part of a lot of different strategies. There's not a one strategy works for all growing companies. I'm one of the luckiest professionals out there because I get to live everybody's reality and try to help them augment it.
So, it almost feels like as you talk about that, I love that you augment the business, but it's kind of like the grandparents who get to hold their grandchild, but hand the grandchild back to their children, which is the parents of the baby. Do you feel that way when you get to come in and put somebody into a family? Then you can break the wrist and walk away. How does that relationship continue?
It's funny because I don't walk away that easy. I do keep in touch with them. It's interesting that yesterday I placed an individual in a company. This same individual I placed 8 years ago in another company.
So why did they leave the other company?
I think it was more about growth. She's been there for 8 years and it was more about she needed something different. She was starting her career out in the other company and needed something different, more responsibility. But it was interesting to see, it's interesting how you keep in touch and you watch people grow in their roles. And that's very rewarding.
But it's also about reputation. I say this a lot for the viewers out there, reputation matters because when people call you back, you don't have to make the phone call. They're going to reach out to you when they have another need. Mm-hmm. Talk about your clientele for a moment because you do the C-level executive placement, of course, and managerial, but you don't normally do the lower positions except sometimes you do for organic clients. Talk about that.
Yes, I'm a believer that if you're a partner, you need to be a full partner. So it's great that we're getting the CMO positions to fill, the director of marketing or sales or national sales, but if the client needs an analyst, I feel like we need to be there. We need to be there and support them in their analyst role or yesterday I had a client ask me, "Hey, Joanne, I know it's not your bread and butter, but could someone in your team help us with a sales support person?" Absolutely, they're an existing client.
So you'll go outside the scope of your expertise for current clients and existing clients.
Correct. I won't go out to new clients with them, but if they're an existing client, I am a believer that you need to support them wherever they need.
Well, you're coming up on almost a decade of this business, correct? Mm-hmm. It's very, very close. A lot of viewers out there look and say, well, Joanna's built this reputation, she's built these relationships, she's getting calls from people. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have to go out and solicit work. Is it as easy as you're making it look, or what are some of the challenges over the past decade that you might be able to provide input for viewers?
It's funny, my first year was the most miserable year ever. And it was because I came out from a VP of marketing and strategy where I called meetings, people showed up, people did what they needed to do, to all of a sudden I was business development starting a new venture. It was very humbling. And it's interesting how it molds the way you look at businesses and other professionals nowadays, because it was a humbling experience. Now I was doing business development, trying to get to people that usually I just sent an email and they'd show up. And recruiting is not an easy, the turnover rate in recruiting is very high because you have to have thick skin. You have to take yourself in the building years, you're getting a lot of rejection, but that's okay. It doesn't mean they're not rejecting you. Somebody sometimes is just having a bad day. Like one time in my first, I think it was first year of my career, I was calling people, the famous cold calling, right? And I called this VP of sales, and he comes and he gets on his high chair and says, "Why are you calling me? I'm not HR. Why would you even call me here?"
So he had tone. He was a little bit aggressive.
He was aggressive. He was very upset. I let him vent and say a lot of things he wanted to say. And then I said, "With all due respect, sir, you're the VP of sales, right?" He is like, "Yes, I am." And I'm like, and you're asking me while I'm cold calling you to get your business?" And he started laughing. We became friends. Mm-hmm. We actually kept in touch for many years after that, and I ended up making placements with him.
Spectacular.
But it's the whole mindset. Nobody's rejecting you as an individual. They're just not having the need at the time. So that's why the turnover rate in recruiting is high, because sometimes people get mixed up the rejection of the opportunity for rejection of you as an individual, which is not the case.
So these are life's lessons. Forget the work. The fact that you're exactly right. We don't know what's going on in that person's head. We don't know what that person is going through. And if you don't take it personally and you're able to connect with them, and that's why you said 60% is the connection.
It is.
40% is the actual work you do. Mm-hmm. So talk about one of your most recent successes as we wrap up here.
Mm-hmm. Well, we recently put a CMO in a position with a growing company. And it was very rewarding because this company was trying to break the 100 million mark.
Of revenue?
Of revenue.
Wow.
So, and I always say that the resources for a $50 million company is very different from the resources of a $100 million company. And this company has been struggling to find the right fit and attract the right talent. Because a lot of times the mid-sized companies have a hard time attracting the A talent. And that's because they sometimes don't realize all the great things they have to offer. And it is a very exciting opportunity for someone who's coming from a Fortune 100 to all of a sudden come to a smaller $75 million company and guide it to break the 100 million.
Absolutely.
So that was a recent placement that we had. It was, 10 days ago?
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
And thank you. And that was very exciting.
Do you ever place somebody knowing that they'll be deciding in the future if you're the people that they use for the placements, so you're kind of hedging your own bets that way? Do you ever hire those positions?
It's funny. I mean, we've most of the people that we place and we end up working with later on, which is it is very rewarding because it shows that we actually developed a good connection, a positive connection. So that's, but sometimes it's surprising. One time I placed the head of HR for a company. Never heard from her again.
Oh my gosh.
And after she left the company, now I hear from everybody there.
That's very funny. Well, sometimes things fit or they don't fit, right?
Exactly.
The square peg into the round hole might not fit.
So it's all about placing the right person it's a right person for the role, and whatever comes out of it later on is whatever comes out. So
Joanna, our time flies by. First off, in addition to your wonderful business, I think you're also providing our viewers life lessons. Because placing and putting the right person on the right seat of the bus, not just in work, but also in life, and the things that you're taking the vantage point from, these things apply across the board, business and personal. How would people get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you, not just for the recruiting needs, but just to meet someone wonderful like yourself? I've enjoyed the time together.
Well, thank you. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Joana Martins with Global Recruiters of Smyrna. Send me a message through there. And I believe my phone number is there and my email is there. So I think that's the best way to connect with me and give me a call.
Absolutely. It's very true. When you say that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. When she says that, she means it, because when I call or text her, it is one of the fastest responses I ever get. Joanna, thank you so much for coming on the show today. And guys, I hope this show was as insightful for you as it was for me. We hope to see you again next week on another episode of The Roadmap.
Thanks for watching The Roadmap with Lee Heisman.